This is the Kingston Fury Renegade G5, and it's the best SSD I have ever tested. That's it. End of the video. Click off. See you later. I am sorry, Samsung, Crucial, Western Digital. You've got a new competition. Let's go. It's so annoying. I don't want to pay hundreds of dollars to just change my Windows wallpaper just because my Windows isn't licensed. Well, why don't you try Hookies? That's a ton cheaper, and if you use the code TN20, you get it even cheaper. What do you mean? How do I get it and how is it possible? Well, see this video here, or the one you're watching. Click in the link on the video description, add the Windows 11 CD product to the cart, proceed to checkout, add the code TN20 for the extra discount. So what, the Windows 11 Pro OEM key is just $23.22? Yeah. Choose the preferred payment option and complete the purchase. The key will be available on the purchased orders in a few moments. Copy the key and paste it into your Windows activation settings, and you're all done. Oh, that was easy. Is that Ryan Gosling? No. Anyway, by the way, the same discount code also works website-wide, so go check out other products, maybe like Microsoft Office. I'm so glad that I have 3 different sizes of this SSD, and we're gonna actually test, well, I have tested all of them to see how do these perform, because actually the capacity can be a performance obstacle sometimes, and you'll see that in some of these things that are coming up. How does it compare to all of the other SSDs that I've tested on the channel? I've picked out probably 20 of the best drives and then looked at this, because this is really the top end of the drive. If we are looking at just the physical appearance of it, what does it look like? Interestingly, there is nothing underneath. So they've gone with the similar route as Samsung, nothing's underneath. If you look at Crucial T705, one of the top drives there, they've got chips underneath as well. Whereas this Kingston, no, it doesn't. Only on the top. Even the 4 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 1 terabyte, each one of them exactly the same. On the top, we have a tiny little sticker. This is not a heat or copper heat spreader or anything. It's just a sticker. They're using Kioxia NAND, and for the controller, they're using 6nm technology just to keep it very efficient and not make the Gen 5 drives be very, very hot. And honestly, it's nice to see that there is another drive that goes the Samsung route, where if you can't like cool it down from underneath, you know, the top cooling will be completely fine. Very importantly, I have heard that there is also an 8 terabyte going to be launched in Q3 of 2025. So excited to see that. And I wonder how that performs against the Samsung 9100 Pro with the 8 terabyte as well, because they've got the drive coming out at the same time. So let's take a look at some sequential read and write speeds, even though they're not necessarily actual workflow and you can't really get those speeds. But it's a good drag race to kind of check these SSDs out. I've got 10 of the fastest Gen 4 NVMEs and then a Gen 5 NVMEs on the top. And what we can see here is that this Fury Renegade G5 is the best, fastest read speed I have ever tested. Slightly faster than the Samsung and the Crucial, but it is the fastest, a couple % faster. We're almost getting 15 gigabytes per second. 14,885 is the fastest I've got them. The 1 terabyte is slightly slower, couple of % slower compared to the 2 and 4, just so you know. And now when looking at the write speeds, here we see even bigger difference between the 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, and 4 terabyte. As you can see, the smaller capacity can't handle that fast speeds. We're getting only 11,000 megabytes per second only, compared to the 2 and 4 terabyte over 14 gigabytes per second. 14,201 megabytes per second. The 4 terabyte is just the fastest. And the Samsung Crucial, none of them really have any competition here. They're about 5% faster. It's absolutely crazy. Now more real world tests, and how do these actually perform in some of these tests that you would actually use in your PC. Firstly, we're looking at the quick system drive benchmark. And this is a benchmark where it tests the drive as a secondary drive. So you've got an operating system drive, and the secondary drive is where you store some of your files, documents, photos, maybe some video, and you're reading very lightly from them. So you're not actively working on some heavy data, you're just reading, doing very, very light use. Secondary drive, maybe perhaps in your laptop, something like that. How well are these drives for that then? And we can see Kingston just populates the top of the chart. It's all red. It is just the best. The 4 terabyte, interestingly, is not as fast here as the 2 and 1. The 2 and the 1 terabyte seem to be slightly faster, and it's probably because now the big capacity becomes, you know, like a big V12 engine that is perhaps not the nippiest at times, still has a lot of power when utilized, but in certain, you know, short spurts, perhaps a smaller engine V6 would be better, if you know what I mean. Regardless, these are the fastest drives you can get. Kingston has done it. Moving on to data drive benchmark, and now it's a similar thing. We're using this drive as data storage. So more storage is going to be loaded onto it and read on it, a little bit bigger files. And here, interestingly, they are very, very on the top there, but the Teamgroup Z540 and Crucial T705 are actually slightly faster. But interestingly, in here, the 1, 2, and 4 terabyte, they seem to perform very, very much the same. They're about 7 to 8% slower than the best of the drives for this data drive benchmark. Now moving on to full system drive benchmark, which I would argue is one of the most important benchmarks for these NVMe SSDs. This is where we're running our operating system and programs. So this is actively random read and write speeds, very, very important because it needs to read a whole lot of files, tiny files all over the place, very, very fast. And the faster the drive in here is, the better and faster your operating system works and more snappy this is. And again, Kingston just populates the top of the chart, absolutely the best. Interestingly, the 2 terabyte is marginally faster, 0.17% faster, but that's within margin of error, as you can see. The top is within 1%, they all perform there. Then the next step down is the Samsung 9100 Pro, which is about 5% slower. And then Crucial T705 with the heatsink is actually about 10% slower. So that is crazy, that this drive is more than 10% faster than this Crucial drive that was populating the top of the charts before. So Kingston really has just made the absolute best drive. And now comparing this to drive consistency test. This is where we're stretching this drive as much as we can. Writing over 20 terabytes of files on it and really hurting the terabyte written spec quite a lot. We really want to see how good are these drives in very extended workloads and how well do they keep up. And what I can see here is they're keeping up really, really well. As you can see, the 4 terabyte Kingston Fury Renegade about 9% faster than the previous Crucial T705 that I have tested. That's absolutely amazing. And here you can also see that the different capacities do matter. If you have a larger capacity, it's got more DRAM cache, it has more capacity, it can sustain those longer write speeds a lot longer, which also kind of tells me that potentially the SLC cache buffer is higher on the higher capacities, but I'm not sure of that. I've asked Kingston about it. I've tried to look online. I can't find it anywhere. So maybe in the future reviews, I can find that out. So stick around to the channel, hit subscribe if you like SSD reviews. We'll talk about that in the future when some more drives will be released. Hopefully I'll get that info then. Interesting though, if we're looking at the 2 terabyte Kingston Fury Renegade versus 2 terabyte Crucial T705, then Crucial is better at the 2 terabyte in terms of the same capacity. And if we're looking at the 1 terabyte Kingston, that is actually not performing particularly well. I'm not sure why, but that is sometimes lower than some of the high-end Gen 4 drives. If you look at the Samsung 990 Pro, for example, that is quite a bit better than this G1 from Kingston. That's quite crazy, and I'm not sure why this is performing like that, but consistency test here, I would say the larger capacity is better. So if you're a creator and you're looking for a project drive, something that your assets are on, whether 3D creator, 2D, photo or video, and you need the drive to just handle these read and write speeds and then read them really, really well, the 4 terabyte is your option for you. It's just the best what you can get. It's absolutely insane. Once we've talked about the consistency, there is another very, very important thing that we need to mention, which is the endurance. Most of the drives on the market come with a 5-year warranty or the terabyte written spec, whichever one kind of you hit first. These Kingston Fury Renegade drives, I am happy to announce, have very high terabyte written spec. The industry standard, what you see from Samsung, Crucial, Western Digital on some of their high-end Gen 4, Gen 5 drives is 600 terabytes per terabyte. So 2 terabyte is 1200, 4 terabyte is 2400. This Kingston one here, 1 terabyte, 1 petabyte, or 1000 terabytes. 2 terabytes, 2000. 4 terabytes, 4000 terabytes written spec. That is one of the highest you can get on the market, which means that these drives are amazing for creators. If you're looking to hammer these with large files, they will last you the longest. They are quite a big step up from what we see on the market. We're getting almost double the performance, what is usually, you know, the benchmark, 2400 terabytes. We're getting 4000. That's just a peace of mind, and it just shows, okay, I see what you did there, Kingston. That's impressive. Usually, we see that type of thing in more terabyte written specs there with the FireCuda 530. That's meant for these types of things, or NAS NVMe drives where the read and write speeds kind of are like up there. But this from Kingston is really, really impressive, which for me as a creator, if I'm looking to build a workstation, that really excites me and makes me kind of think, Samsung, Crucial, this is considerably better drive in quite a lot of different ways. I already mentioned the SLC cache. I'm not exactly sure how big this is, and I tried to figure that out. I don't know that yet. We'll have to see. I've asked Kingston about that yet. Hopefully I'll get back to you. There is DRAM cache, obviously, with these as well. They are DRAM, and they have 1 gigabyte per terabyte, which is good. So we're not using host memory buffer or any other caching systems. In conclusion, what about these drives then? As you've already seen from this, of all the drives that I have tested on the channel, these are the new benchmark. This is that everyone starts to measure up. It's not Samsung anymore. Western Digital hasn't released one Gen 5 drive yet. Crucial with their Gen 5 is actually a bit lower. I know that there's Solidigm coming up with their P51 at some point. Interested to see where this is going to line up. Everything considered, this is not just the best in one single aspect. It just scores so high in all of the different areas. Terabyte written spec, system drive, consistency test, boom, it's just there. I am very impressed. Kingston, you've done a really good job. If you want to check them out, go check them out in the video description below. And your last question might be, what about the price? What about the price? I'm going to leave every single SSD for you in the description below. The pricing for these NVMe drives changes all the time so much. What I recommend you to do is go check out the links and see what they are currently in whenever you're watching this. So please let me know what these are going for whenever you're watching this. And if they are roughly about the same as the Crucial T705 or the Samsung 9100, then you know where these are going to line up. But if you just don't care and you want the best, these drives are the one. Links in the description below. If you have any other questions, I'll always get back to my Minect messages within 24 hours, so check it out in the video description below. And if you want to build yourself the best bang for buck PC, there's some free build guides in the video description below. Go check them out. Thanks guys for watching. God bless. Bye bye.